In the stillness of a world forgotten by time, a thread shimmered quietly in the dark, waiting to be pulled. On a quiet night, where the only sound was rain on glass, a young man sat beside his wife's hospital bed. Her name was Elena. Her chestnut hair fanned gently across the pillow, her blue-gray eyes forever closed. In her arms, she cradled their newborn, Kale, wrapped in a soft blue blanket stitched with glowing runes. Elior, barely in his mid-20s, leaned forward with haunted olive-green eyes. A glowing silver locket trembled in his grip as he whispered her name again and again. And tucked beside the baby was a strange plush toy, a lavender-gray cat-bear hybrid with stitched violet eyes. A gift, her final gift. Outside, thunder whispered. Inside, a life ended, and another had just begun. A week passed like a blurred stitch in time. The world outside the hospital moved on. Rain gave way to gray skies. Machines were wheeled out, and rooms turned quiet. But inside that nursery drawer, beneath pale blankets and silence, something waited. The plush toy that had sat so still, stitched like a gift from long ago, suddenly stirred. Its violet rune eyes flickered, glowing softly like coals in the dark. The ribbon around its neck shimmered faintly, lifted by an unseen breeze. And then a voice, not loud, not even spoken, but whispered like a thread through the heart. "He's not safe. Wake up. It's time." The plush turned its head with creaking stitches. Its tiny paw rose shakily, and from the quiet of the nursery, Mio awakened. Night blankets the nursery in quiet shadows, but the peace does not last. A strange hum pulses in the walls, soft at first, like a lullaby sung backward. The plush toy in the crib begins to twitch. Its stitched ears flick. Its tiny limbs jerk as if tugged by unseen strings. Then eyes, once dull and violet, flicker to life with a rune-lit glow. Mio has awakened. He does not speak, but something ancient stirs behind the seams. His glowing eyes turn to the child beside him, who sleeps unaware. A faint shimmer dances around the plush toy's paws, as if the threads themselves sense danger. Then a whisper, not sound, but feeling, spreads through the air like static before a storm. Something is coming, and they are not safe. The glow from Mio's eyes deepens, urgency now burning behind the seams. Suddenly, the nursery grows colder. The rain outside silences. Time tightens, holding its breath. From the darkest corner of the room, a shadow unravels, thin and sharp like a needle pulling thread. It slithers along the wall, trailing strands of lightless silk. Then, a figure steps out, not made of flesh, but woven, stitched from shadows and old thread. Its face is masked, eyeless, yet it sees. A thread puppet pulled by something deeper. The crib rattles, the baby stirs. The creature reaches out, not with hands, but with strands, spooling toward the infant like hungry strings. Mio leaps between them, a soft flash of gold flaring from his chest. But it is not enough. The thread shadow snatches the child. In a flash of glowing light, the wall tears open, revealing a swirling portal, a doorway not meant for this world. With a soundless pull, the shadow and child vanish, and the room is still.
There's no more waiting. The call has been answered. Elior burst through the nursery door, heart pounding, lungs burning. But he was too late. The crib was empty, shadows swirled like smoke. The wall was torn wide open, not broken, but stitched apart, as if reality itself had been cut with a needle. Through the glowing tear, a swirling thread realm shimmered, colors unnatural, sky stitched with stars, fabric hills folding into each other like dreams unraveling. He saw them, the shadow and the child, fading into that impossible light. No! Mio turned to him, glowing gold now, brighter than ever before. Elior didn't hesitate. He clutched the glowing locket against his chest and ran straight toward the portal. The nursery vanished behind him, replaced by a burst of color, motion, and silence. The world spun, the stitch tore fully open, and Elior fell into the unknown.
Quiet awe, slow, wondrous, and a little frightened, like opening your eyes in a dream that might be too real. There was no sound, just stillness. Then air. Elior landed hard, tumbling across soft ground that wasn't soil but cloth, stitched layers of velvet and burlap under a patchwork sky. He gasped, coughing, clutching the silver locket to his chest. Above him, stars blinked in and out like buttons sewn across midnight. The sky rippled. Clouds moved like cotton batting pulled through threads. Mio floated gently down beside him, golden glow fading to a soft shimmer. The portal behind them began to shrink, its light dimming. Elior stood slowly, dazed. All around him stretched a surreal landscape, forests of threadbare trees, fields stitched with glowing seams, and in the distance, towers of yarn that twisted like candle smoke. This wasn't a dream. It couldn't be. But the ground beneath his feet breathed. He turned. The portal gave one last flicker and vanished. They were alone.
Uneasy curiosity, like the silence right before a whisper. Something is watching, but you can't tell from where. They walked, slow and careful. Elior's boots made no sound on the quilted ground. Beneath each step, he could feel the pulse of thread, like veins stitched into fabric. Mio floated just ahead of him, the red ribbon beneath his chin swaying gently as if to sniff out the path. All around, the thread realm stretched wider, surreal hills of corduroy, rivers of silver embroidery that moved without water, trees of yarn drooping like weeping willows. But it wasn't the beauty that made Elior stop. It was the feeling, like being watched. He turned. Nothing. Just the seams of the world, glowing slightly, shifting. The threads themselves seemed alive, twisting softly in their stitches, as if holding something in or out. Mio hovered closer, his stitched rune eyes pulsing faintly. "We're not alone," he whispered. Elior tightened his grip on the locket. The seams rippled again. The forest stopped whispering. Even the seams fell still, as if holding their breath. Elior took a step back, eyes locked on a cluster of threads ahead, threads that weren't part of the trees, or the ground, or even the world itself. They moved with purpose. From the tangled fabric shadows, a shape began to form, first an outline stitched in silver, then details embroidered in motion. A being rose, tall and slender, formed entirely of thread and rune-patterned fabric. Its face was a smooth mask of silk, expressionless but watching. It was not like the Frey spawn. This one had memory behind its weave. Mayo floated closer to Elior's shoulder, trembling ever so slightly. "That's a stitch warden," he whispered. "They keep the seams sealed." The warden raised its hand. The threads in the forest answered, tightening, locking, shifting. Elior didn't know whether to run or bow. Instead, he stood still as the creature's stitched gaze fell on the locket in his hand. The warden tilted its head. Not hostile, not kind, just curious. Then it spoke without a mouth, a voice like 100 needles moving through cloth. "Threadbearer." The stitch warden's hand remained raised, its gesture slow, deliberate, the way a thread might stretch before snapping. Elior stood rooted to the patchwork path, every seam in the yarnwood forest humming faintly now, in rhythm with the runes woven into the warden's body. It did not speak. Yet Elior felt it inside his chest, a pressure, a current running through the threads of his very being. Visions flickered in his mind, a cradle unraveling, a great tapestry tearing in the sky, shadows made of frayed cloth creeping toward a swaddled bundle glowing with runes. Kyle. The warden lowered its hand and with precise movement traced a slow spiral in the air. The shape pulsed, bright gold, then collapsed into nothingness. Mio's stitched ears twitched. "It's telling us danger is near, that something hunts the child." Elior's grip on the locket tightened until his knuckles whitened. "Then we keep moving." The warden tilted its masked head, the gesture unreadable, and stepped aside. Threads at its feet rippled outward, parting the forest seams to reveal a safer path ahead. Silent, it turned to lead the way. Tight, electric anticipation, the air taut with the promise of violence just before it breaks. The seam path shivered under Elior's boots. A ripple spread outward, not smooth, not the guiding pulse of the warden, but jagged, wrong. From between the yarn trees, they emerged, Frey touched. Their bodies were warped tapestries of cloth and shadow, seams split, threads dangling like nerves, hollow gaps bleeding darkness instead of stuffing. Each step unraveled the ground behind them, the seams fraying to black. Mio's ribbon flared, her eyes blazed violet. They've scented kale. The forest seemed to close in. The only way out was through them. Urgent, breathless, magic flaring in the space between instinct and survival, the first lunged. Elior moved before thought caught up. The locket burned hot in his palm, spilling silver light into the seams underfoot. The ground answered. A loop of glowing thread whipped upward, snaring the creature's leg midair and yanking it sideways into the patchwork dirt. 2 more circled, quick and jerky. Elior swung his free hand wide. Silver filaments shot from his fingertips, arcing in clean lines. One caught an attacker's head, slicing through the binding thread at its neck. Its body collapsed in a heap of loose fabric. The air hissed with unraveling. The forest seams glowed brighter with each strike. Explosive release. The kind of moment where stored power snaps and everything changes in a heartbeat. The third came faster than the others. It launched itself straight for Elior's chest, claws of shredded yarn aimed to tear through. Mio moved first. She became a streak of lavender gray and violet light slamming into the attacker's midsection. The impact cracked like thunder. A shockwave rippled outward, scattering the creature's threads into the fog. Elior caught his breath, realizing his hands were still glowing. Silver light running down his arms like molten veins, seeping into the ground. The warden had taught him nothing of this, which meant the power came from somewhere deeper. From the dark seams between the trees, more shapes began to stir. Unexpected ally, the kind of entrance that smashes into chaos with precision. The mist rippled, silver threads swaying in unnatural currents. From within, fray-touched shapes stalked forward, twisted cloth beings, their patchwork bodies a nightmare of stitched fabrics. Their limbs were long and uneven, tipped with hook-like claws made of black thread, and their mismatched button eyes glowed with a sickly yellow light. The seams along their bodies writhed as if alive, constantly shifting and sewing themselves back together. One darted low, weaving between the roots with unnatural speed. Before it could leap, a brown and cream plush rabbit burst from the undergrowth, long stitched ears streaming behind like banners. Its button-like eyes glinted with sharp focus, and golden rune patterns shimmered along its paws. The newcomer slammed both feet into the forest floor. Thump. A shockwave of golden embroidery light exploded outward, shaking the hanging thread mist and sending fray-touched stumbling, their seams frayed under the force, stitches snapping audibly. "Don't just stand there," the rabbit barked, voice sharp, clipped. "Cut them down before they reform." Mio, glowing violet from within, darted in a blur, slicing through one fray-touched ankle. The leg unraveled into loose yarn, collapsing the creature in a hiss of snapping stitches. Elior lashed out instinctively. Silver light unfurled from his palms and whip-like arcs, severing another's arm clean off. Black threads writhed from the stump before it dissolved into drifting cloth scraps. Tibbin, for that was the rabbit's name, reached into his satchel and flung a small rune bomb into the cluster of enemies. It burst mid-air, scattering golden dust that burned through their seams like fire. The fray-touched shrieked without mouths, their button eyes dimming one by one. The tide had shifted. Breathless, razor-edge tension, the kind of moment where victory is so close, but one wrong move could unravel everything. The golden dust from Tibbin's rune bomb still hung in the air, drifting like burning embers. Most of the fray-touched had collapsed into loose cloth heaps, their button eyes dim and lifeless. But one remained. It was bigger, bulkier, its seams crisscrossed with reinforced silver thread that resisted the unraveling light. The glow from its mismatched eyes burned hotter, pulsing like a warning beacon. it lunged for Tibbin. The rabbit sidestepped, slashing with a short curved blade from his satchel. The cut only grazed the creature. Black stitches immediately crawled to seal the wound. Elior's heartbeat thundered in his ears. He flung his silver threads forward, trying to snare the monster's arms. But the silver-threaded seams deflected his whip with a snap. Mayo darted in low, glowing bright as a lantern, and slashed at its legs. The reinforced threads held. The fray-touched roared in a silentless vibration, claws raised to crush Tibbin. Elior didn't think. He pulled. The silver light in his veins erupted, weaving mid-air into a wide circular snare that dropped around the creature like a halo. Tibbin locked eyes with him and smirked. "Hold it." He leapt, twisting mid-air, and brought both glowing paws down on the monster's head. The golden runes flared, burning through cloth, melting the silver stitches in bursts of light. The creature thrashed, once, twice, then collapsed into nothing but drifting ash and fabric scraps. Silence returned, heavy and final. Elior's threads faded from his hands, leaving only the trembling in his fingers. Mayo slumped to the ground, breathing hard, the last of her glow dimming to a soft violet pulse. Tibbin straightened his satchel, ears swaying lazily. He said as if they hadn't nearly died, "Well, looks like you two could use some help."
Quiet, raw, and slightly surreal. The kind of silence after a storm where every sound feels too loud, and you're suddenly aware of the strange beauty in the ruins. The mist was still thick, but the forest had gone utterly still. The shredded remains of the fray-touched lay scattered, loose cloth fluttering on invisible currents, buttons rolling lazily in the dirt. Elior stood with his head bowed, the glow fading from his hands. His pulse was still racing, but beneath the exhaustion, there was something else, a thread-like hum deep in his bones, still tugging toward somewhere unseen. Mio padded closer, her violet eyes dim but watchful. She nudged his leg as if to say, "You're still here, don't drift away." Tibbin was already kneeling by one of the remains, inspecting the scorched silver seams with sharp, curious eyes. "These aren't just random attacks," he said quietly. "Something is stitching them, intentionally." Elior looked up, past Tibbin, into the silver-hung branches. The forest seams there pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. For a moment, he swore he could hear whispers in the threads, the same voice that had pulled him here the night Elenia died.
The kind of stillness that makes you wonder if the worst is over, or only just beginning. The mist closed in again, swallowing the last scraps of the fray-touched. Somewhere far off, the forest seams pulsed once, like a heartbeat in the dark. Elior's silver glow finally faded, leaving his palms cold and empty. Mio hovered closer, her stitched violet eyes still faintly lit. Tibbin adjusted his satchel, long rabbit ears twitching toward a sound only he seemed to hear. None of them spoke. The threads above swayed without wind, and in that stillness, the forest smiled. To be continued. And that's where we'll leave our heroes, for now. The threads have only just begun to unravel, and something tells me you won't want to miss what's coming next. If you had a good time wandering Yarnwood with us, go ahead and hit that like button, and ring that little notification bell so you don't miss the next stitch in our tale. And if you didn't like it, well, you know what to do. Either way, drop a comment below. Tell us what you loved, what made you yell at the screen, or how we can make the threads of this story even tighter. Until next time, keep your stitches strong.